Welcome to the Data Dilemma, where we break down big ideas to make them make sense. I'm your host, Kiri Shafto, and today we'll be talking about something that affects all of us, the world of big data. It's a term you've probably heard before, but what does it really mean for you and me? Stick around as we explore the data trail we leave behind, the protections in place, and how this massive amount of information is being used in ways you might not expect. Let's start with a little experiment. Take a moment to think about all of the digital interactions you've had just today.
I came in from Montreal today. I used Google Maps all the way to get here. Very important app in my life. I use it quite a lot because I have a terrible sense of direction. So that helps to generate a profile of my movement, for example.
Do you know how much of your data is out there? Maybe you checked your email, scrolled through social media, used Google Maps to navigate to work, or asked Alexa about the weather. Did you use a fitness tracker at the gym, Google something, or shop online? Each of these actions leaves a digital footprint, a tiny piece of data about you and your habits. Now multiply that by billions of people, day after day, year after year. That's big data. It's the massive collection of information that's being gathered about us constantly, often without us even realizing it. But here's where it gets interesting, or maybe a little unsettling. This data isn't just sitting idle, it's being used to build detailed profiles about us, predicting our behaviors, preferences, and maybe even our future actions. Companies, governments, and even researchers are using that data in ways you might not expect. Some of it's for good, like tracking flu outbreaks. Some of it is a little more questionable. So today, we're going to explore three key things: how your data is collected and used, what protections exist to keep it safe, and how de-identified data can actually be useful. By the end, you'll have a better sense of when to be concerned and when to embrace the power of big data. Sound good? Let's dive in. They track me down. Each swipe reveals my path. All right, let's start with the big question. What kind of data is actually being collected about you? The short answer? A lot. So, what's happening with all this data? Well, on the positive side, it's enabling the personalized experiences we've come to expect. Your Netflix recommendations? That's big data at work. The traffic updates on your commute? Yep, big data again. But it goes much deeper than that. Companies are using this data to make decisions about us. Insurance companies could use your social media post to assess your risk level. Employers might use data analytics to decide who to hire or promote. And political campaigns? They're using big data to target voters with personalized messages. Data points show who I am, making me do the math. There's also the very real risk of data breaches. According to Statistics Canada, in 2022, 70% of Canadians experienced a cybersecurity incident, up from 58% in 2020. The power of big data raises important questions about privacy, consent, and the potential for discrimination. Are we comfortable with companies and governments knowing so much about us? What if this data falls into the wrong hands? The good news is there is privacy legislation to protect individuals.
So we have the Privacy Act, which governs public institutions, so the Government of Canada, and then we have IPEDA, which governs private institutions. And they both intersect, and they both actually relate to how we thought about and how we use data.
In Canada, we have two key pieces of legislation to protect our privacy. The Privacy Act ensures that the federal government doesn't overstep by requiring consent for data use, providing access and correction rights to Canadians, and enforcing accountability through oversight by the Privacy Commissioner. This framework protects individuals' privacy while promoting transparency and responsible data handling. PIPEDA, or the Personal Information Protection and Electronic Documents Act, sets the ground rules for how private sector organizations collect, use, and disclose personal information in the course of commercial activities. Similar to the Privacy Act, PIPEDA includes key principles such as consent, limited collection, limited use, disclosure, and retention. PIPEDA also gives individuals the right to access their personal information held by these organizations and to challenge its accuracy. It sounds great, right? But here's the catch. These laws only work if the companies and the governments follow them. Having the Federal Privacy Commissioner to enforce government departments' adherence helps. But this enforcement can be tricky with private companies, especially if they're international. Plus, many people don't take the time to adjust their privacy settings. This is where personal responsibility comes in. Simple steps like using stronger passwords, limiting app permissions, and being mindful of what you share online can go a long way. But what about data that isn't tied to you personally? Let's talk about how big data, when anonymized, can be very powerful.
Our analysis demonstrates a strong correlation between Google Trends data on heat-related illnesses and actual emergency department visits, indicating a robust relationship between the frequency of Google searches and the actual incidence of these illnesses presenting in the emergency department.
So let's shift gears and talk about Google Trends, a perfect example of how de-identified data can be used for good. This practical application of big data that you yourself can explore is actually a free tool that analyzes the popularity of top search queries across various regions and languages. It's a fascinating window into collective interests and concerns. Google Trends looks at billions of search queries and finds patterns without linking them to individuals. This means that we can see what topics are trending without exposing anyone's personal information. It's a fascinating window into collective interests and concerns. So how is this useful? Well, for public health, Google Trends has been used to track flu outbreaks by analyzing searches like flu symptoms in a specific region. This can help public health officials to prepare. For the economy, if there's a spike in searches for things like how to file for unemployment, economists can predict job market shifts. We can even look at things like social trends. Everything from the rise of plant-based diets to political movements has been reflected in Google searches. This is a great example of how big data can be helpful without invading privacy. You can try it yourself at trends.google.com. It's a great way to see big data in action while getting insights into what's capturing the world's attention. As we wrap up, let's consider how to navigate this world of big data. So what are the takeaways here? First, your data is valuable. Companies want it, and it's shaping the world around you. So be mindful of the data that you're sharing. Second, there are privacy protections in place, but they're only effective if people use them. And third, not all big data is bad. De-identified data can be used for things like public health and economic forecasting. So when should we be cautious? Be wary of oversharing personal information, especially financial or health data. Be skeptical of free services. Remember, if you're not paying for the product, you might be the product. But it's not all doom and gloom. Big data drives innovations that make our lives easier and more efficient. From personalized healthcare to smart cities, big data has the potential to solve complex problems and improve our daily quality of life. As we wrap up here, let's consider how to navigate the reality of our big data world. The key is to find balance, be informed, and be cautious, but also recognize the benefits that responsible use of big data can bring. The reality is, we live in a digital world where data collection is inevitable. But by staying informed, managing your privacy settings, and knowing when to be cautious, you can take control of your digital footprint.
Would I finally break free? Or am I too far gone?
And that's it for today's episode of The Data Dilemma. Thanks for tuning in. If you found the information helpful, please share it with others who might benefit. Until next time, stay safe, stay smart, and stay curious in this data-driven world of ours.
My history, but I can't delete what I feel. All these zeros and ones tell me this shit ain't real.